Hi everybody, the purpose of this video is to give you a little bit extra practice with the distance formula, midpoint formula, circles, and ellipses. So the first question, find the distance between 2 points, then find the midpoint of the line segment. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go straight to number 2. And again, just write down the question and on a piece of paper and follow along. So I need to take the difference of x squared, the x's, and the difference of the y's and square. The order does not matter because anything squared is positive. So it doesn't matter if you do 2 minus 1 or 1 minus 2. And it doesn't matter if you do x's first or y's first. So as long as you take the difference, so 6 minus negative 2 and negative 10 minus 7. Okay, now you could do this in your calculator. But it ends up being 8 squared, right? Because 6 plus 2, and then negative 10 minus 17, minus 7 is negative 17 squared. So I've got 353, and you could try to see if it reduces by anything. I don't think it really does. So we'll leave that there. And then I need to find the midpoints. Remember, the midpoint is the middle, the average, the middle, the midpoint. So I need to find the average of the x's. So that would be negative 2 plus 6 divided by 2, right? If you were to take the average of any two numbers, you would add them together and divide by 2. So 7 plus negative 10 divided by 2. That gives me 4 over 2. Comma, negative 3 over 2, and then 4 over 2 reduces, so I'm just going to do that right now. So midpoint and the distance. So for number 3, you do the same thing. I'm just going to set this one up. The distance between 2 points is square root 90. So the distance formula, the 2 points are, I'm going to go negative 3 minus 6 squared plus x minus 2 squared. And then you just have to solve for x. So the first thing I'm going to do is square both sides. So all that does is knock out the radicals. So 90 equals, well, negative 3 minus 6 is negative 9 squared is 81 plus x minus 2 squared. Then if I subtract 81 from both sides, I get 9 equals x minus 2 squared. From here, I can take the square root. So I've got plus or minus, don't forget that, equals x minus 2. So that means 3 equals x minus 2, or negative 3 equals x minus 2. So x equals 5, or x equals negative 1. All right. Perpendicular bisector. So you have to know what the perpendicular bisector means. Perpendicular means we need a slope, and it needs to be opposite reciprocal. So the slope is 1 minus negative 7 over negative 3 minus 3, which is 8 over negative 6, which is negative 4 over 3. So the perpendicular slope is positive 3 over 4. And then we've got this word bisector. We know that it cuts it in half. So I need to find the midpoint to figure out the point that I need, right? For writing the equation, I need a slope and I need a point on that line. So that is negative 3 plus 3 over 2 and negative 7 plus 1 over 2. So that is 0. And then negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. So now I have a point on my line and a slope, which means I can write the equation. So y plus 3, right, because it's negative, equals 3 over 4 x minus 0, but I don't need x minus 0 because that's not a real thing. So I'm just going to write x, and then I can subtract 3 3/4 x minus 3. All right. So graph the circle. So I'm going to do this real quick. So the center here is at 1, 0, and my radius is 6 because I've got 36 here. So I'm going to go 6 to the right, 6 up, 6 to the left, and 6 down, and draw a circle. Pretty awesome. And again, make sure you rewind or pause or whatever as you need. I just want to get through as many examples as possible. So this is not standard form. I need to rewrite this. So I could add 3y to both sides. So 3x squared plus 3y squared equals 27 seems a little bit more like it. And then I'm going to divide everything by 3 so I can get it in the form of a circle. So I've got x squared plus y squared equals 9. So center here, 0, 0, radius 3. Go 3 in every direction. Circles are awesome. Let's move on to the ellipse. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is find my center. I'm going to graph it first. I think that just makes things so much easier. So 0, 0. And then the bigger number is y, so I know that I'm going 10 in the y direction. So I'm going to go up 10 and down 10. And then in the x direction, my distance is 9. So I'm going to go 9 and 9. And that gives me a nice little ellipse there. So at least I have a general shape. So I know that my vertices are the longer axis, so 10. So 0, 10, and 0, negative 10. Or we could write 0 plus or minus 10. Either way. Co-vertices are your shorter axis, so this would be plus or minus 9, comma 0. And then for the foci, I need to use my equation. C squared equals a squared minus b squared. Bigger minus smaller. So c squared equals 100 minus 81. So c squared equals 19. Take the square root. C equals plus or minus 19. Square root 19, sorry. And now my foci are in the same direction as my vertices. So I'm going to do square root 19, which is 4.36. So my foci are going to be in the y direction. I'm going to write 4.36. And you know, I didn't really do a good job labeling. I should write F for my foci, V for my vertices, and CV for my co-vertices. And that when I'm done, it's nice when our center is at the origin. I just know I'm going 10 units from the center to the right, or 9 really to the right, to the left, 10 up and down. So here my ellipse is not at 0, 0. I'm at 7, 3. So I'm going to go there. But I'm going to follow the same pattern. Under the x, I have a 4. So that really means my distance is 2, right? Take the square root in the x direction. So I'm going to do that. 2 and 2. These are actually my vertices because 4 is bigger than 1. I put it over 1 so I can get a fraction. The square root of 1 is 1. So I'm going to move 1 in the y direction. And I'm going y because it's under the y. I went 2 in the x direction because it was under x. And I have my graph. And then I can tell my longer axis is always my vertices, so I should put v's there. And my shorter one are my co-vertices. So we could do our vertices in 2 different ways. I know I'm going from the center, and now my vertices are in the x direction. So I'm going to have 7 plus or minus 4, comma 3, which again, I could just look at my graph. Turns out, or 7 plus or minus 2. Sorry about that. So, and I can see that. That gives me 9, 3, and 5, 3, which I already have on my graph. My co-vertices are the smaller number, so in the y direction. Now x is the same. Remember, it's always from the center, so 3 plus or minus 1. But you could skip that step if you just want to look at your graph. That gives me 7, 4, and 7, 2. However you want to do it is up to you. So then your foci, you need to use your equation. So c squared equals a squared minus b squared, bigger minus smaller. So 4 minus 1. So c is plus or minus square root 3. And the foci are in the x direction because our vertices went left, right. So 7 plus or minus square root 3, comma 3. And I can't combine those because 7 and square root 3 is not a pretty number because it's 1.73 and it goes on forever. So if I want to do that plus 7, that's about 8.7, so I can graph it real nice right there. And then if I did 7 minus square root 3, I get 5.3-ish, which is about right there. So that's graphing. Let's write some equations. So write the standard form of the equation of a circle that passes through the given point whose center is at the origin. Remember, the origin means 0, 0. And my general equation for a circle is this: x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And I know I'm at the 0, 0, so h and k go away. So I've got y squared, x squared plus y squared equals r squared. And then they give me x and y. Let's do a, actually. So I've got x squared plus y squared equals r squared because the center's at the origin. And now they give me x, so negative 5 squared plus 0 squared equals r squared, right? A point is always xy. So 25 equals r squared, and that's exactly what I need. X squared plus y squared equals 25. All right, so let's write an equation of an ellipse. And this time they're going to give me vertices and co-vertices. So I know that I don't have a center here. So I could find the midpoint, right? The midpoint, the center is in the middle. So if I had 0 plus 0 over 2 and negative 3 plus 3 over 2, my center is at 0, 0, which maybe you could get by looking, but that means I've got x squared over something plus y squared over something equals 1. So my vertices are going from 0, 0 to negative 6, 0 and 6, 0. So since that distance is 6 in the x direction, I get to put 36 under the x. My co-vertices are at 0, 3 and 0, negative 3. So since the distance away from the center is 3, 9 goes under my y squared. So there are actually a couple problems we didn't do. If you want to rewind to the point where you could write it down and pause it and try it, that would be awesome. I know I went through these quickly, but you can always watch it over and over and over and over and over and over until you are ready. So again, distance formula, midpoint, perpendicular bisector combines that, graphing circles, graphing ellipses, writing an equation of a circle, and writing the equation of ellipse. That's what you need to know for your quiz. I hope this helps. Email me if you have any questions.